Hey everyone, me again. Today I'm going to be showing you my full coverage foundation routine for winter when my skin is dry and blotchy and textured and just generally very angry. And as always, I'm only going to be using affordable products in this video. By the end of it, it still looks pretty natural and you can still see my freckles, my skin looks like skin, and generally I still look like a human being. So let's get started. So I start out with skincare, and I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about that in this video because this is a makeup tutorial. I'll leave all the products I use in the description box below. But one thing I will advise is using a facial oil before you put your moisturizer on. That really helps just give your skin a little bit of extra moisture, which will really help when we're putting on the foundation later. While that's all sinking in, I like to do my eye makeup, and once my eye makeup is done, I can see if there's any areas of my skin that have kind of soaked up the moisturizer, and then I can just put on another layer before I start putting my makeup on. So sometimes I'm skipping primer entirely, sometimes I just prefer to add another layer of moisturizer on my skin, but when I do use primer, it's something like the Maybelline Baby Skin Primer, something that will smooth over my pores but without feeling mattifying. And then my secret weapon for discoloration is color correcting concealer. I have this little palette from NYX which I absolutely love. I start out with the kind of peachy shade in the middle and I take that underneath my eyes. I find that it counteracts the blue tones really nicely. And then I go in with the green shade, and this goes over areas of redness. After that, we're ready for foundation, and recently I've been using the CYO Long Lasting Life Proof foundation, which I used to hate. I really couldn't stand this foundation because it's already a little bit too dark for me and it oxidizes as well, but over winter I've been absolutely obsessed with it. I work in really thin layers using a Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge, and I start just by dabbing it where I need the product the most, which again is the chin, the cheeks, the jaw, and I find that using a foundation that's a little bit too dark has helped so there's not as much of a stark contrast between the areas of my face that are really pale and the red dry patches. And this formula is super dewy as well, so it's not emphasizing any texture, it's really gliding over the skin and making everything look quite dewy, quite hydrated, and I've really been enjoying it. So once I've got it to a certain point, I actually like to go in and set my makeup with powder before building up that foundation even more. And that's going to sound like a nightmare if you've got dry skin, but bear with me, honestly. If you just do thin layers of a really wet, liquidy foundation and then really thin layers of powder, you can make it work. So I just mixed the two paler shades in the Revolution contour palette in the shade Fair, and I just dab them over the areas where I really want to build up a bit more foundation. And then once I've set everything with powder, I'll go in with a bit more foundation, again using the sponge. The sponge allows me to just build layers and layers of this foundation without any streaks or any cakiness, and I keep building the foundation until I get the coverage I want. Of course, if you're anything like me and you've got dark circles, you've got blemishes, or just the odd little bit of redness that just won't cover up with foundation, you will probably need concealer as well. And I've actually been using Dermacol as my concealer recently. The trick is to just work with a really small amount, the smallest amount that you can get out of the tube, basically. And I like to use a really tiny brush to do this with, just so I don't apply too much product. I'm actually using a nail art brush in this video. It can be any tiny brush in your collection. Gel eyeliner brushes are quite good for this actually. And I just go on the areas where there's still a bit of discoloration. So that's underneath my eyes, around my nose. And then for larger areas that are still looking a little bit red on my face, I basically take my finger and I just rub the product on the back of my hand and dab, again the smallest amount I possibly can, over the offending areas. And as you can see, it doesn't look cakey when I do this, it's just helping me get that little bit extra coverage. So again, on some areas of my face, I am actually wearing quite a lot of makeup, but because it's in thin layers and because the makeup is only in the areas where I really need it, I still look like a normal human being. It's not cakey in real life or anything like that. And then once I'm happy with my coverage, I set my face. So I'm using the paler setting powders in the contour palette again that I was using before. And then I can use that same palette again to contour. I just used the palest contour shade because I'm as pale as a ghost. And I also take some of this colour down my neck and along my forehead as well. I look really pale when I wear full coverage foundation or just when I'm wearing more coverage than I normally do. So I do like to warm up my face with bronzer. I'm really enjoying this one from Leavv at the moment. It's such a nice formula and it's very buildable. It's very difficult to screw up with this product, which I really like, because if you're as pale as I am, you know how difficult it is to put bronzer on without looking ridiculous. And I'm just adding a pop of colour to my cheeks using the Milani Illuminating Powder in the shade 03 and building it up to connect it back to the contour. And this will probably sound a bit weird, but I actually take a bit of blusher on my neck as well, just because my neck is so pale in comparison to my face. I find that just adding a bit of colour there kind of brings everything together. Sometimes I like to clean up around the contour and the bronzer just with the brush that I applied my setting powder with, just to bring everything together. I don't wear any highlighter at all. I find that highlighter is really emphasizing my skin texture at the moment. If I did want to wear a highlighter, I would apply a cream one before I set my foundation. Then I'm adding a dab of this Rimmel lipstick in Asia. I'm just dabbing it instead of applying it, you know, full on. I don't like to have heavy eye makeup or heavy lip makeup when I'm doing a full coverage skin look. And then I looked at my face and I kind of felt like I was a bit washed out, so I just added a little bit more contour just on the outer perimeters of my face using a slightly darker shade in the palette. And after that, I'm setting my face using the Revolution Pro Fix Fixing Spray. This stuff is a lifesaver if you have dry skin. If you often find that your makeup looks really cakey or you just need a bit more help meshing your makeup into your skin, this stuff is really good. And that's it. That is my full coverage foundation routine for winter skin. I've just noticed that one of my eyebrows looks really angry. I don't really know how that happened, but oh well. I really want to do a lot more tutorials in 2019. I kind of feel like affordable and drugstore tutorials is where I fit on this platform, so subscribe if you haven't already to see more tutorials from me. And that's it. Goodbye from me and my one angry eyebrow. I will see you guys next Sunday at 9 AM. Bye!